In the budget, one of the big ticket items, the response to the Aged Care Royal Commission, but fundamentally, is $17.7 billion going to be enough?
Yeah, so my interview later in the program with Labor's aged care spokeswoman Clare O'Neil, where she critiques the government's $17.7 billion budget announcement for aged care, saying it is not enough funding and that Labor will be promising more before the election, but at the same time indicating that Labor can raise the money without introducing an aged care levy.
It's not as big a number as it sounds, Andrew. You're probably aware that a lot of economists and health experts who contributed to this debate suggest that the number required to fix the problems in aged care is actually quite significantly higher.
So before the next election, will you have a full policy with suggested funding for aged care?
Yeah, we'll have an alternative approach on aged care. We've talked a little bit about the issues facing home care, Andrew, but the thing that's been left on the table, the biggest single thing that the government has completely failed with their aged care package, is issues around workforce. I think one thing we've seen through COVID is that if government wants to prioritise a critical issue, it can find the funds within consolidated revenue.
So the opposition this week again taking the gamble to hold back on policy until just before the election. Anthony Albanese's budget reply speech last Thursday announced $10 billion for social housing, a policy partly aimed at winning votes in the regions, but there were a few other big ticket items. I'm told there are more housing affordability announcements on the way from Labor. Perhaps they will revisit negative gearing, but again there was nothing said on this in that budget reply speech, Kieran.
Now, the repatriation flight, the first from India, has landed, but nowhere near full, sadly.
Yes, the first repatriation flight from India landed in the country yesterday, ending a pause in flights with close to half of the 150 who wanted to board not allowed on because they tested positive to COVID. This looms as a fair problem in terms of getting the vulnerable home, but the government argues this justifies their policy on instituting the pause and shows just how rampant the virus is in India. The government will send more DFAT staff, do more testing and ensure those on wait lists get onto vacant spots on planes caused by positive tests, with the plan being to get 1,200 to travel to Howard Springs in the coming weeks and hundreds more to go to other states. For those who missed out, every 14 days they'll have to test to try again to get on one of these flights. And it looks like there will be no commercial flights allowed in from India for some time to come.
Andrew, we've been reporting for some months now that Scott Morrison is heading towards a target of net zero emissions by 2050, but the question is, when will that announcement come?
So Scott Morrison will in 3 weeks head to the G7 in the UK, and late last week he spoke to the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, with a readout having Johnson again pushing the net zero emissions target by 2050. Morrison has said he wants to work to that climate change target, but has not committed to it yet. My mail is he will not be committing to the target at the G7 itself because a plan to achieve it is still being drawn up, but we can expect an announcement on that later in the year.